Chairman Hughes, the public is in. Chairman Hughes, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Welcome everyone to our special meeting, April 27th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Leah, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, I can. Board Member Kuzno.
Present.
Board Member DePews. Board Member Kakashi.
Present.
Board Member Lee. Board Member Mullen.
Present.
Board Member King Pipenbrock.
Here.
Board Member Ralstrom. Okay, I see you talking, but you were muted. You're good. Board Member Secord.
Here.
Board Member Tompkins.
Present.
Vice Chair Farrow. And Chairman Hughes.
Present. Thank you, Leah. I believe the first order is the approval of the April 6, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to accept, is it April 6th or April 16th according to the, our minutes? It would have been this, it would have been the 6th, right?
April
So-
16th. Sorry, that was a typo on my agenda. Sorry about that.
Excuse me, Chairman Hughes.
Yeah,
I had a couple of corrections on it before we go to the motion. That's okay. Under the COVID grant program, in that first paragraph, it says the maximum grant award of, it looks like 60,000. Is it 6,000? Per business?
You are correct.
And then also in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth paragraph that starts with Director Seisland, there was also a dollar figure in there. Should that be $14,301 available?
You're correct on that as well.
That's all I had. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Chairman Hughes will need a motion and a support for the approval of those minutes with Board Member Pipenbrock's amendments.
I believe I made a motion, or Committee Member Mullen made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Leah, please take roll.
Board Member Kuzno.
Yes.
Board Member Kakashi.
Yes.
Board Member Mullen.
Yes.
Board Member King Pipenbrock.
Yes.
Board Member Ralstrom.
Yes.
Board Member Secord.
Yes.
Board Member Tompkins.
Yes.
And Chairman Hughes.
Yes. The next agenda item is a public comment on agenda items. Go ahead, Leah.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. I will confirm for the public that we had no written comments sent in for this meeting. So the first person in the queue is going to be Brian. I'm just going to share the 3-minute timer. And then Brian, if you can please state your full name and city of residency for the record, please go ahead.
Thank you, Leah. I'm Brian Vosberg, resident of Grosse Pointe Park and also resident of the TIFA district. I am wanted to comment and make sure that the TIFA board received the petition that 13 members of the residents on my block, the 1100 block of Maryland, signed opposing the demolition of 1166 Maryland. I did not see that in the agenda, nor did any of my, or excuse me, the budget, nor did any of my neighbors see that listed on the budget for the parking study that was promised by the TIFA board. So I appreciate hearing how the parking study will be done that the board stated that they would complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Hughes, I have no further public comment at this time.
Very well, thank you. Let's move to the next agenda item, which would be the budget discussion and approval for the 2021-2022 budget. I just wanted to mention a couple of words before we got into the discussion, had the discussion among the group. This TIFA board is made up of residents, business owners, property owners, all nominated by the mayor and approved by city council. They're very good people, very active people within the community, and I'm very proud to be on this committee with them. We started talking about the budget after the first of the year, and a worksheet was given to the community members, and they provided input as to their priorities. It was collected and given to the TIFA director, and he incorporated that into creation of this budget. And so we put this budget together, and it has a number of categories which we believe reflect our priorities. And Nick, if there's a couple of notes or comments you'd like to make about the budget, that'd be great.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, and TIFA members. Good to see you, and looking forward to our budget discussion tonight. I really appreciate all of your feedback and those from residents as well that have provided their information for our consideration. So I'll read and just kind of cap over a little things, and probably in the best sequence as I'll go over. And if you wouldn't mind of holding your questions or comments to the end, I would greatly appreciate that. And I'd be happy to provide further clarification and or discussion. So the TIFA fiscal year of 2021, which is our current budget, was 1.3 million with 933,000 from captured property taxes and about 395,000 in reserves. Year to date, as of April 22nd, the TIFA has spent approximately 550,000 of its current budget. And this budget will conclude on June 30th, 2021. And then our new budget will start on July 1. The new budget predicts 983,000 in captured property taxes. So that's about a $50,000 increase in property taxes. And includes 460,000 in reserves with a total of about 1.4 million roughly. New or continuing items of note in this year's fiscal budget include 100,000 for the COVID-19 and business grant opportunities line item. Engineering and professional services for 75,000. As well, you'll note that the Department of Public Works project on Mack Avenue is included in the budget and discussed in our previous TIFA meeting. Our first note payment is expected to be paid in October of 2021 of $305,395. And from there on out, that number will be reduced each and every year. And other DPW related expenses for the project, including the security system, IT services, and office furniture equipment. As Chairman Hughes stated, the TIFA members expressed in their budget considerations to include the following items the TIFA could allocate its resources to, including but not limited to business grant opportunities and those for homeowners, marketing, parking improvements, including off-street and reconfiguration, streetscape, social district, LED lighting, street fairs, alley resurfacing. I said social district twice, my mistake. Bike-friendly improvements, electric vehicle charging stations, front yard lighting of residential homes, tree planting, underground infrastructure, and sidewalk improvements. And so I'm going to go ahead and go line by line in explaining the proposed budget for the year 21-22. Salaries, full-time employees include wages for myself and Miss Leah Smith. Director in finance, this is for a director position, and for the finance director who is also helping with this TIFA budget and administering of the TIFA. Operating supplies of 10,000. This could be for whether we print off supplies that could be for After Six and Kercheval or Charlevoix events. The line item of 36,400 for traffic lighting is a charge from DTE for DTE lights that are within the TIFA district. Legal services of 40,000, that's paid for Bodman and Mr. Jake Howlett, who is our TIFA attorney and also represents the city. Our auditor of 5,500, as we are required to do an audit every year. You will note that the holiday decorations has increased to 21,250. And for that reason, we went ahead and are looking to purchase new updated holiday decorations that over time have been a little tattered, and it's time for a little bit of update there. We wanted to put in right away $100,000 within the COVID-19 business grants. So, whether that we want to call it round 4, or we want to develop a new grant program, that's what that would be. Pedestrian lighting of $25,000 is for the pedestrian lights that are in the TIFA district. So whether that's new light bulbs, that's new poles itself, that's been a program that the TIFA has done for many years. And then moving over into the next column, we have the residential improvement program of $225,000, which is we're proposing right now for sidewalk improvements, tree planting, trimming, and a possibility for garage improvements and parking for in the alley areas. Within the business district capital improvements, we have appropriated about $225,000. Within that, what I'd propose looking to do for the TIFA district is the city-owned lights that are on Kercheval, Charlevoix, mirror similar to what are on Mack Avenue that are newer lights to include LED lighting. I believe that's something that it's really important for the area and will definitely save on cost in the future. Electric vehicle charging stations, it's definitely something the way of the future, and it's something that I'd like for the board to consider. Possibility for parking lot. I know there's the parking lot that TIFA has discussed regarding behind Point Hardware. That is a gravel lot that we'd like to look to resurface, and possible streetscape improvements to the TIFA district. Mack Avenue improvements, you'll see that line item for $40,000. That's a new line item. Within that, what we're looking for is potentially of a facade improvement program and entrance signing into the district, into Grosse Pointe Park, over at our entrances near Weyburn, near the new DPW building, and over at the corner of Cadue and Mack Avenue. $75,000 for marketing promotions. Within this is used for events like After 6 on Kercheval, the Charlevoix events that have been popping up, and possibility for the help with the new and proposed business association that would be developed here in Grosse Pointe Park. DPW installment purchase contract, that's the note payment for the DPW building, which will be in October of 2021 of that payment. DPW security system, you will note in our last meeting, we had proposed initial costs were about $140,000. That was quite high. And so we reduced that to about $100,000 and moved the $40,000 over into the Mack improvements line item. DPW IT services, so this will be for internet cabling of $35,000, and then $30,000 for DPW furniture and office equipment. So with that said, I'll recap that we conclude that entire budget. We're looking at about $1,443,318, with $983,000 of that coming from captured tax revenue and $460,000 coming from fund reserves, for that total of $1.4 million. I look forward to having a great discussion tonight, and happy to hear your comments.
Nick, just a quick one. The reserve is a little higher than normal, correct? Could you explain that reserve that we're carrying over?
Yes, so that would be unspent dollars, from the previous fiscal years. And so that's what we're projecting, based on the current budget right now, that we'd be moving over.
Okay, but that 460 is, I believe, made up of, part of it was originally intended for the installment purchase contract for the DPW, which was anticipated to be in this fiscal year, but it is now apparently going to be in the September-October time period, which is the next fiscal year. So those funds will carry forward. And then the other, if you take the 300 loan payment off the 460, another 160,000. So in reality, we didn't use 160,000 last year. And the year's not over yet. We still may use a fair amount of that, but it was kind of an odd year with COVID, and there weren't as many street fairs or different activities, and a lot of suppliers were a little delayed in doing work for us. So we do carry a little bit forward. We don't lose that. We still get to use it, and it's incorporated in this year's budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. And one thing I'll add further to that, Chairman Hughes, is that, we had predicted as we were going through with this bond that potentially part of that note payment would be in this current fiscal year. You are correct. And it is actually going to be paid in next fiscal year with this proposed budget. So yes, you are carrying over approximately about 300,000 of that.
One other quick question. There was, in terms of the amount that's been used and not used, is that something that's going to get discussed at the City Council budget workshop?
So after tonight, in consideration from the TIFA board, they're reviewing the budget tonight. And obviously, after a motion for approval, this will be forwarded to the City Council for their budget workshop, where they may or may not have some comments or suggestions that they would like to see within that TIFA budget. Afterwards, and they formally approve that budget, I will come back to the TIFA board to, again, formally approve this TIFA budget and adopt.
One other note, but during that workshop, they'll look at the funds that we've spent and the funds that have not yet been spent. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman Hughes.
Okay. Well, one other quick question. I know there's some conversation about the resources that were set up for residential improvements on this current budget. I know we reduced that by $100,000 to move over to the COVID program. And so and we've also spent well over $125,000 of that budget so far. I know that there's a lot of activities going on these last 2 months of this fiscal year. So I expect that we'll probably use a fair amount of that. And anything that's left will carry forward to next year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. In looking at allocation of reserves,
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now, Board Member Kuzno.
Okay. The allocation of reserves, I understand.
Go ahead,
That's the
Board
question
Member Kuzno.
is, okay, we have a reserve that is out there. How much is that total reserve? Do
You're
we know?
still muted, Randy.
It's not.
No, he's good, John. I can hear him.
Sorry.
Randy, would you mind repeating that question? I appreciate it.
Okay, the question is, allocation of reserves is coming from a reserve fund. So how much is the total reserve fund that we're allocating from?
So we have in the reserves as well, within the TIF, about another $100,000.
Okay,
Chairman Hughes, I've got a few questions for Nick.
Go ahead, committee person.
Sure.
Lund.
Thank you. A few questions. One would be, and I'll run them through, and then Nick, you can respond. The legal service number at 40K seems very high for us. I don't know if they're doing more than just servicing the board. I'm not sure what's covered in that 40,000. That's $3,000 a month in legal. The engineering professional services for 75,000 seems as a high number as well. And the question would also be, I would like us to look to see if we can get some grant funds for the charging stations instead of paying for them directly and paying for them out of our own resources. And what's our expected surplus at the end of this year, looking forward, thinking about what you're going to be expending in the next 2 months? And then what's the year-end 2022 reserve?
Okay, I was just jotting down the notes. Thank you, Arthur. To start with legal services, we did have within this fiscal year higher legal fees due to Bodman that was working on the part of the actually note payment. So that was Mr. Jake Howlett and Barbara Bowman of Bodman. So there were certainly some more legal fees. We did appropriate about 45,000 last year and reduced that by 5,000. But I do certainly understand your comment too. And if that's something that the board wants to maybe reduce a little more, by another 5, I don't see that being an absolute problem. Regarding the engineering professional services, obviously, one of the things that I would like for this board to consider doing is repaving that gravel lot, which will, cost in engineering. If there's any streetscape improvements, engineering, which is OHM Advisors, by the way, for those that don't know, that's the city engineering firm that would be using those. I completely agree with you regarding the electric vehicles, charging stations. If we can get a grant from DTE or something from SEMCOG. I do know there's a couple possible donors that are also willing to help us out with that. That would be my first thing I'd like to go to instead of us spending that money. So I absolutely agree with you on that. And then your next question regarding spending for the next 2 months, I could see a lot of that, being done towards, we are in the spring, so tree planting is something that, this is about the right time of year for trees and trimming. Our public works department is looking into alley improvements, especially catch basin cleaning, separating areas that still could be combined. As well, we're working with our current contractor right now to see our road contractor to see if there's any time that we could maybe go ahead and resurface some of these alley improvements. And so, roughly I could say, Board Member Mullen, maybe we could see about another, roughly 100, 200,000. It's hard to predict at this point right now. And then as well, if we move forward with a parking considerations, that's something that would also be a significant cost. Did I answer all your questions?
The only other question would be what do you see being the surplus at the end of next year, if we were going to have one?
At the end of this budget fiscal year, correct?
No, 2022, at the end of 21-22.
Okay. I guess it all depends upon, how much we spend within this budget. But I feel pretty comfortable that, we probably will still have reserves, depending upon what we don't spend in this upcoming year. We could say roughly again, $200,000, $300,000. And that depends on how expeditiously we spend. Obviously, COVID really hurt us this year in doing a lot of programs that we'd like to do, and things were shut down. And so I would really like to try and inject as much money as we can from this TIFA district into the businesses and the residentials than we did during this year. So I know that's probably, I wish I could provide more of a clearer answer for you, but obviously I think it's one of those that time will tell. And I look forward again to more of those discussions in regards to ideas that we can move forward with in the residents and businesses, and really looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Hughes. That's it.
Any other comments?
Chairman,
Question?
I had a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Seisland, I just wanted clarification on a couple things, and I may have missed this when you were going through your overview.
I'm ready.
For the residential improvement program, you went through what that would cover for 21-22. Do we know how much we spent this fiscal year for residential improvement and what was actually completed?
So I'm looking at my budget right now. I'm Board Member Pipenbrock, and activity year to date, we've spent approximately 124,000. The total budget was 425,000. We did have some expenditures within trees. We did move line items over into the COVID support program, about 100,000 of those dollars. And that's one area that I would like to see within this current budget that we could spend more monies using that line item, because we still have approximately about close to about, a little over $250,000.
Okay. And then for the marketing promotions, you mentioned under operating supplies that would include printing like flyers for events and that sort of thing. So marketing promotions, what other kind of marketing are we doing in the city for different events?
So to recap real quick, we do have the After Six and Kercheval events. We do have the Charlevoix events that have been newer. Mr. Craig and I, who is the Parks and Rec director, are potentially looking into an idea called Mac Madness and seeing if we can do some programs over there, including more of the Mac businesses in support of them. As well, what I'd like to see our TIFA do is work with, the Grosse Pointe News, Grosse Pointe Times, and further advertisements of our local businesses, whether that's coupons, promotions and such. I think we can do a little bit better. And that's something I would definitely like to work on, of promoting and helping those businesses. And I do know that there has been discussions regarding opening a business association that would help to not only be Mack Avenue, Charlevoix, Kercheval, and also Jefferson, that's the DDA. And so we could help provide that support as well. Obviously, if you have suggestions too, or I'm sure other board members have ideas of how we could promote not only our events and our businesses, I would, happily take your thoughts.
Yeah, I like the idea of coupons and such. My last question is this: is the parking study that we've been kicking around for the long, is that incorporated into this budget? Is that under the engineering professional services, or do we have a number for that? And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, we did receive a parking study proposal from MKSK. After reviewing that with the planners, it was quite high. So that's something I renegotiated with them right now. We are looking at that. I'm trying to negotiate those numbers down to separate them into just TIFA portion, DDA. There is that strip on Mack Avenue and Cadieux. And so at this time right now, I could probably say that they're looking at 20 to 25,000. That would be just for the TIFA district itself. And so that would be within the, if we were to do that in the next fiscal year, which is what is in front of you in this budget, that'd be under engineering professional services. Otherwise, we could look to within this budget that we currently have right now, that could be within the engineering professional services line item of the budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is Joe Tompkins. Question regarding pedestrian lighting. We've had some talks about, at least I've thought of safety, pedestrian safety, especially now that we have social districts in the commercial area, and more people flowing back and forth. Have we given any serious thought to improving the crossing lighting? I know that we talked about those push buttons that, flash a bunch of lights so that the cars know there's a pedestrian going across, posting signs that say you have to stop for pedestrians in crosswalks, maybe having stop signs at all intersections. So if you could expand on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to point out, and it's going back real quick to board member Pipenbrock, something that each board member expressed is that we certainly want to advertise the social district. Certainly, let's hope that COVID gets behind us and that we can really promote that social district. I am very proud to say that I believe we were the first city within Wayne County to have that social district. So if we can certainly market that and we have more of these events, that would certainly be something within the marketing promotions line item. To Board Member Tompkins, to your questions, regarding, a couple of the items that I'd like for the board to consider. LED lighting, I believe, will certainly help. Obviously, it'll also be a cost savings into our city-owned lights. And we do have the pleasure of a city electrician that is very talented and able to work on maintenance. And he's been doing so over the years with our current lights, but obviously if we can update those and free them up in some other areas, that would be helpful. Regarding the business district and the capital improvements line item, I believe in the TIFA district, we need to do a little bit better of a job in regards to wayfinding signage. And so whether that's here's public parking, using that for striping lines, as well as, parking spaces that we could stripe those lines, stop signs, crosswalks, light ups. That's something that working with public safety that we could definitely look into. And TIA, who is Traffic Information Association, would be able to better serve us and help in looking at how we can evaluate that system. And if the board were to consider that parking study, that also could help in safety and parking as well. So I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have anything else.
So just to be clear, we don't have a specific program in place to look at pedestrians, traffic crossing Kirchville, crossing Charlevoix, in these districts.
So we have had, some concerns come to, myself as city manager and to the city council over the years in regards to, people crossing and that there's a lot of traffic. And a couple of things that we've done over the last couple of years that I can think of is at the corner of it would be at Kirchville in Maryland. You'll see that there's like a lit up stop. That's a 4-way stop right now. That is something that came up to us and we needed to look to improve. As well, over on Lake Point in Kirchville, there is a 4-way stop over there that was instituted due to those concerns. Over the years, we have also looked at striping and improving over on Charlevoix, and that's something that every year we have to do because over time that paint just evaporates, and all the tread marks, and even the stop bars. That's something that now that we're getting past winter, we're going to look for our public works department to update those. So to answer your question, do we have a program that's set up for that? No, but that's certainly something that we take on a case-by-case basis. But if that's something that you'd like to see us do within this capital district improvement, we could look to use the services of TIA and help evaluate our system. So they actually, we pay them on a retainer out of the city budget, and they would be able to come in and actually look at these areas and say, okay, how can we improve the safety? And so that's something I can definitely look to do.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, there's one item that I'd like to do is I'd like to form two subcommittees. One would be the Business District Capital Improvement Subcommittee. The other would be the Residential District Improvement Subcommittee. For the Business District, I'd like to have committee members Kuzno, Kakashi, Depues, and Secord. For the Residential District Capital Improvement Subcommittee, I'd like to see Marcia Farrow, committee members Farrow, King Piepenbrock, and committee members Mullen. So while there's a lot of good initiatives that have been listed, it may be difficult for us to do everything all at once. So these subcommittees can prioritize and keep us focused so that we can actually get some good things done for the residential and the business districts. Thank you.
Great discussion. If there's no further questions, I would ask for consideration for somebody to make a motion to approve the proposed budget.
I'll make that motion with the one that the parking study does come out of the engineering professional services line item for fiscal year 21-22. I do want to make sure that it's not done now, that it's done as we have more parking in the district, but I'll make the motion to adopt the budget.
Nick, I second that.
One moment. Our committee member Mullen, if we were to do a parking study, we would do it as soon as possible. Whether it's in this fiscal year or next fiscal year, it matters not. If we do it this year, if we do it in this fiscal budget, great. If we don't, then whatever funds we don't use this year carry over to the next year. I don't see that as an issue, one way or the other. The fact is, do we do one or not? We'll talk about that in a moment, okay? Let's focus on this particular budget here first. Thanks. Did we have a second?
I did. Kurt Ralston, board member.
Thank you. Please take roll, Lee.
Excuse me, this is Joe Tompkins. Just to be clear, what was the amendment that the board member Mullins proposed? Is that part of what we're voting on? Or are we just voting on this budget as it stands?
We're voting on this budget as presented.
Thank you.
Leah, please take roll.
Sorry, I was muted. Board Member Cousineau,
Yes.
Board Member Depew, Board Member Kakashi,
Yes.
Board Member Mullen,
Yes.
Board Member King Pipenbrock,
Yes.
Board Member Ralstrom,
Yes.
Board Member Secord,
Yes.
Board Member Tompkins,
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes. So the motion passes. The budget will now proceed to the city council for their review. And hopefully they support it as much as we support it. Before we move to public comment, there has been a lot of discussions about parking in the district as the district has grown. We did survey the business in the district. 18 of the 51 businesses responded, and they were unanimous in saying that either they needed more parking or more parking was needed in the district. There's been a lot of conversations about different alternatives from trying to use land that is private, which is not available to us, to perhaps using the Beaumont lot, which we have reached out to them previously and they've rejected that, but we have reached out again and have a meeting with them next week to see if there's any alternatives. So there are a lot of different items afoot to try to resolve the situation. I know we have worked very hard to support our businesses with the COVID grant program, which is a temporary fix. Parking is a gift that keeps on giving, but I believe we all want to be prudent. And I think it makes sense to direct the TIFA director to pursue a parking study. So I'd like to propose a motion to authorize our TIFA director to authorize MKSK to conduct a business district study not to exceed $25,000 and seek to complete it as soon as possible. Do I have a second? Or before we have a second, any discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. I just was wondering, did we get any other bids? I mean, that's the only one I've heard about, and I thought the general talk was that that was kind of high. Do we have any other bids on a parking study?
So we did have a discussion, I believe this might have been in November or December of last year, where we did have proposals from 3 other firms. At that time, the board had decided that they wanted to move in another direction. I think it was due to high costs or looking to incorporate more in other areas. In regards to MKSK, I had received their initial parking proposal that was about $50,000, which was quite high. And so looking and working with them, I have already negotiated a reduced cost. And I think we can reach in the TIFA district proper. I believe that we can have a cost around $20,000 to $25,000. And that's something that MKSK said they could probably work on as well. You would have to break that out into the DDA and see if the city would be willing to support that section of Mac and Cadue that are outside of the TIFA or DDA districts. I truly believe board member Pipenbrock, being that they are a part of the master plan process for the city, I believe it would be in our best interest if we were to pursue that, to work with MKSK. We were supposed to have it actually would have been today, a open house over at Windmill Point Park, where we were going to have open house community engagement. Working with MKSK, I've already discussed with them that could we have at the end of May, where we have that proposed open house, if we can have our open house for the community regarding the master plan, but we can also discuss the parking as well aspect at that meeting in May 27th. And right now, MKSK said absolutely, that would be a really good idea to have. Excuse me. And so to answer your question, no, we do not have any others, but I believe in the best interest and in cohesion and collaboration with the city, working with the master plan. That would be my recommendation, but certainly, if there's other discussion, I'd be happy to hear that.
So the 20 to 25K is just for the TIFA district, and it's only for the business parking study. Is that correct? Just to clarify?
That would be for the business districts within Mack Avenue, Charlevoix, and Kirchhoff.
Okay. Thank you.
To be clear, it would include the residential areas in the TIFA area, correct?
No, at this time, this would be just strictly the business district area. And obviously, as part of that reconfiguration and such with MKSK, they're going to be taking community engagement from residents, that are living right near that area. And as well, that has been thoroughly discussed by MKSK and working with their, they've had a survey online, gppmasterplan.com. There's certainly been a lot of discussion there regarding such. But if you're asking whether that's specifically built into this survey, no, this proposal, no, it would be just the businesses.
Have you talked to them about how they would take COVID into account?
Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to discuss is obviously, COVID has certainly impacted how much, traffic we've seen in the area. Something that I've discussed with them is we really need to, work with the business owners and what was their pre-COVID numbers. What were their busiest times? What are they at right now? What do you forecast and see in the future? And, a lot of the discussion that's come around as well is where are the employees parking? Are the employees taking up spaces that are within the district and residentials? And so it's something that we have to be very mindful of. Obviously, with COVID, it's a little different, but we're hoping with the experience and help of the business owners as well as residents that have seen and are visiting that area that they can describe, the parking situation and traffic in the area.
I'd like to make a couple of comments if I could.
Go ahead.
As far as the parking study goes, I said in the past I wasn't totally in favor of it, although I'm leaning more toward it at this point. But you know, I've been working in this business district for 30 plus years, and I've watched our building go from being abandoned to a very vibrant building, as well as the entire neighborhood growing. And I personally see a very, very strong need for parking in the area. Now, me personal, I have my own parking lot, which has 12 spaces. I have an additional 6 spaces on the street out front. I don't need any parking for my business. So I want, you know, to people to understand this isn't me trying to do something for my own business. This is something that me, as well as other board members that I've talked to, we're interested in doing what's best for the community as a whole, and trying to increase the parking, particularly in the evening hours, I find being very, very critical to the continued vibrance of the area. And if you take a look at what's happened with property values in this TIFA district over the last 15 years, I think you can find that probably the average house has actually gone up in double. I recall back in 2007, houses selling for $130,000 that today are selling for close to $300,000. So obviously the success of the business district has led very, very strongly to an increase of property values for everybody in the area. So we've all benefited. But in order to keep this trend going and keep this area vibrant, I think this parking is a huge issue that's very, very important that we move forward on.
If I can follow up on Board Member Cousineau, I think I agree with the importance of parking and having a healthy amount of parking for the businesses and for the residences. People coming home from work aren't able to find a parking space to bring their groceries into their house. That's a big problem. Being an urban planner, my concern is making sure we get that number right, that we don't overbuild, because there are costs to parking, aesthetic costs. They reduce property tax because you're not getting anything. There's environmental costs. There's heat island costs. So I've been working with trying to convince Board Member Cousineau that there is a value to this parking study. It is also a way for us to be able to tell the residents we're not overbuilding, that we're building what is needed. I just want to make sure that MKSK is, that they commit in their proposal to us that this is a fine time for them to do their study. That's what I think is important, because if this study is impacted by COVID, then we probably just spent $25,000 and flushed it down the drain. So, but I do value parking. I just also see that it can have a cancer to neighborhoods where there's too much parking, where we're separating the residents from the commercial district. What is beautiful about our area right now is that the commercial and the residents abut against each other. So we just need to be very careful about how much and where we put parking. So
okay, I understand what you're saying and agree with you about the importance of the parking. And overbuilding would definitely be a problem and be a costly problem. As I see it from my experience in the neighborhood, the overbuilding is not an immediate issue. That would be a longer term issue. And I think that the timing is important, that we make some moves this year in that direction and at least make some small steps. And to the residents in the area who have expressed a lot of concerns, I would like to say that we definitely are considering everybody and what's good for the neighborhood as a whole in this. And not, like I said, this is not something personal that I want for my business. This is something that I see as important for the community as a whole. You know, and as far as the residents go, I know there's some concerns about traffic patterns and headlights and that, and privacy. And I think part of that study should be that we're going to investigate privacy fences, green hedges and that to block headlights. And so that the people who are near a parking lot are not suffering in their property values directly. In fact, I think that they'd be likely to be more enhanced. If you're next to the parking lot and suddenly you have a fence or a brick wall adjacent to you, your privacy of your backyard has just been increased tremendously. So like I said, I think it's super important issue.
Chairman Hughes, can I make a comment to both Board Member Kuzno and Mullen that I forgot to omit?
Go ahead, please.
One of the things that I discussed as well with MKSK, besides COVID, pre-COVID and COVID, is that I would really like for them as part of a parking study to look at our current allocation of those parking spaces. Do we need to revise how we actually park? Is that could be in the future, let's throw out as much as angled parking. Is there areas that we need to have 15-minute parking, for ingress and egress of those businesses, especially let's say the cleaners, or let's use Randy, for example, right in front of his business, or looking at, do we need to have permit, parking, in certain areas? That's something that I expect MKSK to do, and it's something I've expressed to them. And that said, it's something that absolutely they would include well within that survey. So I definitely wanted to just let everybody know as well, and I apologize for not mentioning that earlier.
That sounds great with me.
Chairman Hughes, I had one other question. So Director Seisland, since you're on that note, I need to ask you this before. So with the current parking, you talked about the green sticker on the meters. Do we have any of that information about that program, like on the GPP website? Like, is that something that we could advertise there so people are aware of it and how to use it and how to access it? Or is it only like you have to walk up to the meter and do it right then?
I know we do have some flyers. I believe they are on the website. If I had to pick a specific section, I'd have to check. But we do have flyers that are 1, 2, 3, 4. How to set this up, how to download the app. This is how you do so, and that's something that we can absolutely look to advertise more, and as well to go upon your discussion with advertising Park Mobile. It's Park Mobile. Is that there was discussion at our previous meeting as well that something that I would hope MKSK would look at is our meters are very, very old. They need to be updated badly. Our DPW has done a great job over the years of patches, and they're very talented people, but I think certainly those lifespans of those are beyond repair on some of them. And as you see, if you're going into, we'll say a Royal Oak, a Birmingham, a Traverse City, many communities, you'll see, or Ferndale, you can see actually like a parking station buttons where, you press your number and this is your parking, or you can actually insert your credit card right into the meter. That's something that I would hope within that MKSK study that they'd be able to tell us. I think we could probably all agree the answer would be you need new meters. And as part of that too, we need to reconfigure our charging. We do right now on average, I think it's 25 cents per hour. That is actually very low in consideration of other communities. I mean, I know I have definitely been dinged in Royal Oak before for being about 5 minutes over, and that might be 50 to 75 cents over half an hour for parking. I don't believe we want to go to that extent, but it's something that we seriously need to consider.
So I was talking about within the study, but I was wondering right now, like while we're waiting for the study to happen, if there was a way for us to inform residents and people who are coming to visit of that before they get here, so they can have it set up and ready to rock and roll. So, but I love that you've already talked to MKSK about all of these things. Thank you.
No, but you're absolutely right. I can definitely look to advertise that, more on our social media, make sure it's more prominent on our city website. We do have an emailed business list too that, we can send that out, and maybe we could also look to send out those flyers, and if businesses wouldn't mind to have that advertised in there, and, friendly little reminders, please feed your meter, right in the entrance. So Randy, I hope you don't mind if we put a flyer in your business, that probably would help out quite a bit.
Absolutely, not a problem.
If there's no further comments, if there's a second to the motion, we can proceed.
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Leah, could you please take roll?
Board Member Kuzno,
Yes.
Board Member Kakashi,
Yes.
Board Member Mullen,
Sorry, yes.
Board Member King Pipenbrock,
Yes.
Board Member Ralstrom,
Yes.
Board Member Secord,
Yes.
Board Member Tompkins,
Yes,
and Chairman Hughes.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, we have public comment on non-agenda items. So Leah, if you could orchestrate, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. I just want to reiterate that we had no written comments submitted. I'm just going to give people a couple seconds here. Okay, Chairman Hughes, I do have one person in the queue, so I'm going to share the 3-minute timer. And then Max, you are first. If you will please state your full name and city of residency for the record, please go ahead.
Hi, Max Wiener, Grosse Pointe Park. First and foremost, I appreciate transparency, and I'd love the fact that we're getting some insight into the context of some of this decision making. One thing though I think needs to be reiterated to a lot of the comments that are being made in general, the people who are put on the TIFA board were put on for good reason. I appreciate the experience and the insight that you all have to make the decisions that you're making. And I'm a little bit perturbed that it seems like there's a lot of efforts to micromanage some of the decisions or some of the suggestions that TIFA is making. Again, you guys are on this board because you're qualified for the job. And I think we should give you guys more latitude to do the job. Regarding the parking, it seems like we had unanimous opinions in the previous meetings that parking is something that we all need. I think we all realize that. And I want to second what Board Member Pipenbrock and Board Member Kuzno were saying. It seems like $25,000 isn't necessarily the most prudent expenditure when we already know that we are looking for development of the parking. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. I just think that if we're going to have people volunteer their time and have the expertise to serve on the TIFA, we should let them actually do the job that they signed up for. So if you all feel strongly about something, again, you're the best qualified to be making these decisions. Again, I don't think I'm the only person in the community who thinks so. But anyway, appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person in the queue has a screen name of CD. So I'm going to ask you, I see that you're unmuted. Please go ahead and state your full name and city of residency.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Denman, and I'm a Grosse Pointe Park resident. And the reason for the comment this evening is I'm terribly concerned with the number of community residents who seem to always protest anything relative to growth in the TIFA district. We were talking about parking and the need for parking. We have many new businesses moving into the area in the TIFA district, and we're struggling with parking now. It's COVID. We're going to produce a parking study at the data. I'm concerned about that. But overall, what's even more alarming is it seems to be the same community residents disputing any growth in Grosse Pointe Park in the TIFA district. And I'm concerned about that. Anything with a Cotton family name or any of the other donors or URIF, it seems to be disputed. And I'm very concerned for the donors who are willing to give their time and their talents and their resources to Grosse Pointe Park, and these same TIFA residents protesting, whether it's the Beaupre studio build, now it's the parking behind the bookstore. And the bookstore parking, that residence is between two commercial driveways. It's irresponsible for a family to live in that home, and the view from that home is the worst in Grosse Pointe Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hughes, I have no further comment at this time.
All right, then, I'd like to move for adjournment, or do we have a motion to adjourn?
I have one other comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Board Member Cousineau. The two comments that we just received from the public are very appreciated. And I think the last one from Cheryl Denman is probably of great value, that I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but in reality, I think we have several thousand residents in the TIFA district, and we've got about 20 that are seem to be very strongly opposed to some of the moves that we're trying to do. And again, I just want to reiterate the point that I said earlier. We are trying to do what's best for the community as a whole. This is not a selfish decision on any of our behalves at all. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a great evening. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all your time and effort. Take care.